and chant Om. Namo Namah. Om. Today I am going to connect you to the Yoga Sutras. Let me talk about Sutra. There is a definition for the word Sutra. Sutra having mainly 6 features, 6 characteristics. The salient features of Sutra you need to know before connecting to Yoga Sutra. What it means, Sutra, what it represents. Sutra is considered as a thread, as a sacred thread. By the support of thread, we can make a rosary. All the scattered beads one can arrange by the support of a thread. Thread is the medium through which all the beads are arranged in an order. Same like all the scattered essence, theory, philosophy of yoga arranged by the Yogi Patanjali by a sacred thread called Sutra, that is Yoga Sutra. He made a beautiful garland of yoga by arranging all the scattered ideas of yoga philosophy. That what we are wearing now, that what we are connecting to. Yogi Patanjali, he has explained yoga philosophy by emphasizing on sutra. He explained the whole yoga philosophy in 196 yoga sutras and compiled it as 4 chapters. How he has written, he explained it orally. Later on, they were using palm tree leaves for writing, called Tala Patra. Tala means the palm tree leaves. There was no pen and book in those days to write. No printing machine was invented. So how they were writing? Using the palm tree leaves and writing. They were using a kind of needle and writing on the palm tree leaves. They were using different sources to make palm tree leaves to write. So it was a manuscriptology is that if you study how they were making palm tree leaves and how they're using the needles, how they're sharpening that, how they're writing, all these things will be known if you undergo through manuscriptology. There were many manuscriptologists working. Indian Heritage and Cultural Department is working on manuscriptology and inviting many manuscripts. If they were there, hidden manuscripts there in our houses, the Indian Heritage Department is now seeking them and they want to preserve it from earthworms and want to make it digital to connect to us. To Sutra is in Vayu Purana. Patanjali's, before Patanjali, there was a source that is called Vayu Purana. Vayu means wind. Purana means it's a mythological text based on wind. In that, they defined what is Sutra. That is the source, the same energy he was using here, what here in explaining at the time of explaining sutras. Sutra means alpaksharam. Alpa means short, aksharam means written, aksharam means letter, alpaksharam. So, its short lettered sentence is called concise in nature, which is a sentence which is precise, which is concise, is called sutra. Short sentence you can call with less letters, alpaksharam. A short sentence with less letters. Brevity is playing a vital role in sutra explanation. Alpaksharam. Second is asandigdham. Asandigdham means, sandigdha refers to doubts. Doubtlessly, he explained, undoubtedly, without any doubts, he explained it. There should not be any doubt. If you study, the seeker should not get any doubt when he is studying this philosophy. All the doubts need to be get clarified. So, there should not be any sort of confusion in the minds. So, explained very clearly, clear in nature, it is very deep like ocean, very deep. Alpaksharam, asandigdham, saravat vishvato mukham. It is saravat, it is having a very essence, it is carrying deep depth, in depth meaning, saravat, very sara, very all the essence. To connect to that essence of holy yoga philosophy, you can see in Yoga Sutras. Everything is coming here. The glory of Veda and Vedanta, if you want to study, these sutras are sufficient. These are the link practices through which, like through link website, you can connect to that main website. So, if the main website is Veda, and to that you can connect to this link website called Yoga Sutra. You can connect to golden age, you can connect to silver age, copper age, and you feel, you can realize that there is no mind. These all the ages, this historic calculation is all according to the mind. Finally, you realize what mind is. That is all happening when you study yoga philosophy by connecting to that sutras. So, sutras having this nature, that is, it is having in depth, it is in depth in nature. It is having very deeper essence, deeper meaning. Every sutra is equal to many thousand texts. Alpaksharam, asandigdham, saravat, vishvato mukham. Patanjali not addressing certain sect of people or certain religious people, are not giving these Yoga Sutras only for certain caste or certain creed or for certain gender or for certain nation. No. Vishvato Mukham is addressing the universal audience. Those who are seekers, those who really seek happiness, those who want that inner peace, whose maturity levels are fit for connecting to that higher consciousness. For all of them, those who are pure, those who are good, for all the people who are seeking good, for them this text is meant for. They can study and they can connect to it. It's having universal acceptance. Universally, everyone can connect to yoga without religious norms and all these rules and regulations. It's happening. So, universe is connecting to that. He has written like that. It is the proof of that. We are all connected to that. We will connect. two things which we have to understand. Astobham is that he has written, he structured it with stobha. There should not be any stobha at the time of writing. That means at the time of writing, we should not give some kind of doubts, another thing, and confusion, there should not be any sort of confusion. So, how much letters he have to use? Again he is calculating, and like Alpaksharam, he has written short sentence, but that in making that short sentence, certain kind of repeated words he was not using, repeated characteristics he was not using. Every word is very powerful. So, so he was very aware at the time of writing the sutra. Anyone can change this sutra in later generations, they may change. If they add some words, it gives another meaning. If they do like that, this sutra's purpose won't be solved. So, for wellness and to connect to everyone, he has taken care in writing sutras. What care he has taken is that Yogi Patanjali, every word he was taking care and writing, all the characters he was using with awareness in writing. So, no one can change that sutra. If they change, if they add some extra word in that sutra, that meaning change and we cannot connect to that reality. So, that there is no possibility to add some extra word. He has written not to add any extra word to that. So, there is no possibility to add something extra in that. It is not possible for us. The sutra itself as sutra only we can read, that is possible. Navadyam, that means it is well programmed. For every computer writings there is a well program. This is a well program, he well programmed it. It is a very wonderful program written. These kind of sutras are fit for computer programming in modern days also. Like that he made it. For C and for C++ programming, this kind of Sanskrit sutras will fit for making computer programming possible. And next is that Astobham Anavadyam. Anavadyam means flawless, without any error. He has written flawlessly. No mistake you can find there in any grammatical error or any error related to mind, no, because he has written with through soul, not with mind. No error. If there is error, it is their error is in our mind, not in the sutra. If something if it is at fault, it is in our mind, not in the sutra. So, these are the 6 salient features of sutras. Before connecting to sutras, all these 6 needed for us to study. I will write these 6 things on the board. I am not writing Sanskrit words, I am writing. Is possessing an in-depth meaning. A sutra is having universal acceptance. A sutra is well programmed and it is flawless. It is concise in nature. Thread is having a very great significance in India. Thread, we are also wearing a sacred thread, which is we call as Yajñopavita in India. Thread. This is the thread. There are three in this Yajñopavita. If you see, it is a natural one made by cotton. There are three sub threads in this, through which we are making it as a knot. The three sub threads in this main thread is the representation of three nadis, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. The meeting point is the knot. It is just a pressure point to give from the spiritual heart from right to here, and from left to right it is connecting. So this is stretching here to the spiritual heart, from heart to spiritual heart. It's bringing acupressure and always reminds you to connect to that physical heart and also spiritual heart. Until attaining higher spiritual state, we need it. After attaining that, even you take it out, it's okay. At the time of renunciation, we are taking it. Until renunciation, we need a discipline with the feel of renunciation. At the time of complete renunciation, removing this Yajñopavita. When you are removing this Yajñopavita means that is sacred thread, means it is complete renunciation. You mastered in understanding that real thread is inside, and you connected to that internal thing. Nothing is external now. Now no need to do fire rituals also, because you realize that the fire is inside. So yogi is renouncing the fire. Fire is the medium through which everything you are getting. So that in the ancient Vedic tradition and culture, they are invoking the fire to get prosperity, to just live in the world. As long as there is a fear of world, as long as there is some there are some sorts of attachments of your past life deeds also, even though you are aware of this life, you need some balance in this physical world, phenomenal world. For this, they are with awareness at the age of 8, wearing this sacred thread and connecting to that Gayatri mantra and reciting that Gayatri mantra and connecting to many hymns of the Veda and chanting them and reconnecting to that universe and seeking also prosperity, health, wealth and everything, and making life beautiful and living is one level. The first part of Veda speaking that. And if you go deep and finally renouncing everything and even positivity, going beyond positivity also, and just living like a silent spectator, just living by witnessing everything as a sakshi bhava, is witnessing everything as pure consciousness, just staying and being and becoming one with oneness and reminding with the body just to help others how to reconnect to that consciousness. Philosophical sense. This is the very great internal thread on which all the scattered ideas of yoga got rearranged. So, how many sutras are there in the yoga philosophy text? 196. Into how the Patanjali himself has written a commentary. That name of that commentary is called Vyasa Bhashya. The many and they understand that Vyasa is some other person, but from some intellectual source, I came to an understanding and realization that Patanjali himself, in the name of Vyasa, has written the commentary. So he is himself the commentator of that. But if you study from the books, in that books, Vyasa looks like a separate person, and that commentary is available. Like that, you will get an idea. It is a very authentic commentary for the Yoga Sutras. It's called commentary. We call in the language Sanskrit as a Bhashya, called as Vyasa. So Vyasa's commentary. He called Vachaspati Mishra, he has written commentary to this commentary. A commentary on the commentary. It is called Tattva Vaisarati, the name. You need to know this. Tattva Vaisarati has written by Vachaspati Mishra. After that, Many yogis, they have written commentaries of yoga philosophy. There was a yogi called Vijnana Bhikshu. This is just for your understanding. If you want to write, you can write, but just I am writing for your understanding. Vijnana Bhikshu. He has written the commentary for Yoga Sutra by writing. Commentary means bhashya. There are different ways of writing. He has written glossary. Glossary is called vritti. It is called. Vartika is glossary. And vritti, we call it as glose. Glossary. It is also glossary, and a very abridged form of this glossary again is called vritti. A yogi called Sadhasiva Brahmendran has written the commentary for this by the name of Yoga Sudhakara. Narayana Tirtha has written Yoga Siddhanta Chandrika. Like that, Raja Martanda, by the name, there was another classical commentary. Classical commentaries on this yoga philosophy text, we are seeing 16 great classical commentaries on yoga philosophy. Among them, I personally, by studying Vyasa's commentary, first is most authentic to study. So I studied this Vyasa commentary and Vachaspati Mishra's Tattva Vaisharadi. This name is Tattva Vaisaradi. It is just for your understanding I am writing. Tattva Vaisaradi written by Vachaspati Mishra. In the middle, those who really connected to that Vedic Sanskrit, and they were writing simply in modern Sanskrit. Even though they were writing in modern Sanskrit and they having higher qualification, they highly connected to that classical Sanskrit. So the writing, you can see a very wonderful classical style. The oral education of Veda, they were all having, who were writing, the classical writers. They were studying, they are undergoing 14 years of Veda and grammar and everything. With that higher education, only after that they were writing. But modern commentators after 18th century, they were not undergoing all these things. Just whatever coming to their mind with that, so they started writing commentaries, which is not wrong. Something they are sharing good. So sharing good is not wrong. But with higher awareness, attaining good, and with that goodness speaking is the very typical task what, and it is very challenging task, and also it is a great thing that had happened by many classical commentators. Even in these classical commentators, we have to tell everyone are great scholars, but very few are enlightened in these classical commentators. All the classical commentaries, what you read, they give wonderful wisdom to you. But in these classical commentaries, two classical commentators were great. They were Sadasiva Brahmendran and Narayana Tirtha. They explained everything according to non-dualistic philosophy. Vritti. It is. Vritti means you can call it as glossary. Vartika and Vritti, you can call it as glossary. It's like glose. Okay. Tika means notes. There is also, some have written Vritti, some have written Vartika, some have written Bhashya, some have written Tika for yoga philosophy. All the things we cannot call them as commentaries. Tika means short notes. Vritti means glossary or glose. Vartika also glossary. Sudhakara means nectar. The nectar coming from the moon is called Sudhakara. Yesterday we have seen moon beach and half moon beach also. So the nectar of moon is called Sudhakara. Dhakara means the ocean. Also, Sudha means it is also connecting to that in-depth meaning is like ocean, the yoga philosophies. So, Sudha Sindhu, it is that this Sudha is Sindhu in nature. This Sindhu is Sudha, Yoga Sudhakara. Okay. My commentary is also based on Vyasa and Vachaspati Mishra, and also based on my explanations also reflect the holy teachings of Vyasa and Vachaspati Mishra and Narayana Tirtha in the teachings, and also wherever there is a way to explain for understanding, sometimes I am bringing the very powerful ideas of other classical commentators also in the classroom, but mainly I am focusing on the way of explanation I follow is that the structure wise explanation I follow according to that Sada Shiva Brahmendran. When he was in childhood, he learned the Vedas, 14 years Vedic study. He was studying, his mind was such powerful, learning that 14 years study in the span of 5 years. Just he was attending all the things, and he was started arguing with the, making debate with the people who were so not learned like him. And he was debating. When his teacher, then his teacher Paramashivendra was very happy with this student. Everything he was getting and competent enough. He was just like scholar at very early age. So, and he was making arguments with everyone. Then his guru asked him that when you stop arguments, when you realize that not to debate, then at that time he just said to his teacher, Teacher, from today onwards I am not speaking. Then the teacher said, Do that. And from that day onwards, he stopped speaking. Then the Guru said that you having the right to sing songs, and at the time of really when the people are necessary, at that time for people's benefit, you can speak. He said, but he was sometimes he was with a spiritual ecstasy singing the songs that everyone hearing and enjoying. And he has composed many beautiful songs and has written yoga philosophy in the songs like Pibare Ramarasam Rasani Pibare Ramarasam Janana Marana Bhaya Soka Viduram Janana Marana Bhaya Soka Viduram. He has written like that. So, Pibare Ramarasam, drink the holy nectar of yoga, drink the nectar of Rama, Pibare Ramarasam, and connect to that Rama. Rama means a very auspicious name. The word Ra is coming from Om Namo Narayanaya, the Astakshari mantra. The word Ma is coming from the Om Namah Shivaya. The middle letter in Namah Shivaya is Ma. The middle letter in the Namo Narayanaya is Ra. If you combine these two, it is becoming Rama. Rama. These two letters bringing the holy energy of the Shiva and Vishnu's energy at a time. That means the energy of destruction, the energy of illusion is Shiva, and the energy of love is Vishnu. He is bringing love, and also he is bringing how to destroy the illusion with the two mantras Rama. Rama, the word, the mantra is very ancient mantra, and since many thousand years, for many thousand years, the uttering of Rama mantra you can see from the enlightened masters. So this yogi Sadashiva Brahmendran, master in the Rama mantra. His mother initiated him the mantra Rama. So he was meditating this two-lettered mantra Rama continuously. After that, his mind became sharpened. And after that, he got such a spirit to absorb everything, to write everything. That was the secret behind his writings. He says Rama mantra. He born in Tamil Nadu, and you can see his place where he left his mortal coil. He is an enlightened master. We call him as Avadhuta. Avadhuta means who is unshakable for pain and gain, who is unshakable from all sorts of difficulties, who never shake in what kind of difficulties arise in the life, who is stable. Such kind of person is called Avadhuta. This yogi Sadashiva Brahmendran, he has written a beautiful text on soul called Atma Vidya Vilasa. In all Indian Vedic monasteries, first they start reciting that Atma Vidya Vilasa and they go through. Such a great yogi he was. He left his mortal coil in the place called Nerur. I visited that place Nerur and I meditated there, and I came from that. I meditated there in Nerur. Nerur is a place in Tamil Nadu. The first sutra is opening with the auspicious word Atha. Atha Yoganusasanam is the first sutra. Now you repeat this word Atha. Atha Yoga Anu Sasanam. This is the first sutra. Now let me give the word meaning of what is Atha Yoga Anusasana. Atha is equal to now. Yoga means balance. Anu means again. It is re. Sasanam is exposition. Exposition of a treatise. Now re-exposition to yoga is the meaning. Speaking about now. Atha yoga nusasanam. Now connect to yoga. Reconnect to yoga. Now this is a new exposition. This is the re-exposition to yoga. By this sutra, what you are getting? I said to you that every sutra looks like a just short sentence, but many thousand books information will be there in this sutra. To talk on this one sutra, I need many years to explain, because Patanjali explained many years the yoga philosophy and explained that in the name of the sutra. So this sutra we can connect to one important thing. Re-exposition to yoga means what? That means he again explained yoga. By this word we are getting one important point, that he was openly saying that he is not the founder of yoga. Such a honest teaching you can find from this kind of yogis. We are adding different names and saying that I am the founder of yoga in these modern times. But he was not saying like that. He was giving value to the masters from whom he learned. And he was giving value to all the enlightened masters who were there before him. And saying that yoga was there before him. And he was not misleading or misguiding the students by saying with ego that I am the father of yoga, or I am everything for yoga and I am teaching you yoga. No. The yoga which was already there, that yoga was explained by the yogi Patanjali to them. Then the students asked the question that who was the father of yoga then? First, from whom this yoga coming into force? If you are not the originator to yoga, and who is the originator to yoga? Then he gave the explanation that the cosmic universe, The cosmic, the universal consciousness is the originator to yoga. That universal consciousness, he expressed it in a technical name. Something technically they need explanation. So, the technical symbolical representation of that cosmic universe he explained as Hiranyagarbha. So, it is considered as Hiranyagarbha is the originator to yoga. He said like that. So, from this sutra you have to understand that you have to connect it to history of yoga. This first sutra is history to yoga. So, if you connect it to that history, first point you will get that who is the originator to yoga. The originator to yoga philosophy is who? Hiranyagarbha.
So it says balance, now balance,
Yeah, balance.
and then the third one?
Yeah. The third one is anu, that means again.
Oh, again.
Eternal golden womb is considered as the originator to yoga. Okay. Eternal golden womb. We cannot imagine this planet Earth without sun. Sun is the source of our life. Sun is the source of photosynthesis. Because of photosynthesis, all the plants, trees surviving. Because of photosynthesis, if there is no photosynthesis from the sun, we cannot see life in the plants. If there are no plants, there will be no oxygen. So, the source of light here for the planet Earth is sun. Our life cannot be imagined without sun. So, that sun is considered as the originator to yoga, who is bringing life to everyone. The light for the light which is lightening always is that the source of yoga. So, the light is the inner light is yoga and the external light is yoga. So, that light is bringing wisdom to you. Through that light you are seeing the world. So, who should be the first originator? That is considered as the eternal golden womb. From this golden womb everything is coming. So, the first human who born by this eternal golden womb is considered as Manu. Manu is considered as first human. There are different planes in the universe, and on the planet Earth plane, the first human who learned, received this knowledge is just symbolically represented as the first human. The first human on the planet Earth received this beautifully, this wisdom, and explained that to everyone. That Manu to Ikshvaku, and like that there is a lineage. And Ikshvaku, after that, the Krishna and the sage Vasistha explained to Rama, the great yogi. So he learned yoga from his disciple, learned from his master Vasistha again. Like that, this yoga carried forward from ages to ages. The time of Vedic period, you can call it as golden age. After that, when that people were all living in 100% balance in those days, at the time when the time was little bit disturbed, and then people living with 80% balance and 20% disturbance. The name of that is called silver age. After that, 50% with balance, the people mind again got disturbed. So, those who are living with 50% disturbance and 50% balance, the time is called copper age. After that, so 30% of balance and 70% of disturbance is this iron age. In one way, 20% of balance, 80% of disturbance is this. So, for those who are enlightened, all are coming in all these ages. They were all enlightened, not connected to these ages, but just you can see them in all the ages also. And those who went beyond golden age is always concerned with the mind. If you are undisturbed in this physical world also, you can connect it to golden age. If you are 0% disturbed, means that you are connected to golden age only, even if you are in the iron age. Okay. So like that, those who are enlightened, mind is there only according to the time. Time is there only according to that mind. Mind and time are in reality not there, dear friends. They are just making you believe that they are there. That is the reason 5 minutes of time you feel that like many years happening. Like just 30 seconds of dream making you believe that 100 years passed. This whole physical consciousness is just 30 minutes time. Those who understand this 30 minutes time, and if you are aware with this 30 minutes, if you are silent with 30 minutes thoughts, if your mind is silent with 30 minutes thoughts, it is called samadhi. This wakeful state is also a dream. Those who realize that, they will become yogis. For that we need awareness. For that we need consciousness. Everything is like a dream. I am coming to the point. Atha Yoganusasanam again. Yes, time is less, so I am connecting again to this sutra. So connecting to that balance is yoga. All the 4 ages very nicely explained here according to this sutra. We can connect to that 4 beautiful ages. We are calling in the Sanskrit as Kruta Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. This age, this era, in the Sanskrit we call it as Kali Yuga. Yuga means era. For all the ages, there was a standard text, specific yoga the people were following. For Iron Age, for this age, for our deluded mind, a very balanced text written for us, pure consciousness taking human form and helping is Patanjali. So for us, the text needed is yoga philosophy called Yoga Darshanam. But before him, he was saying that before me there was yoga. So how yoga was there before him? In Silver Age, the yoga was there in the form of the pure consciousness coming in the form of Krishna. Before me there was Krishna. And Krishna was explaining yoga in the form of Bhagavad Gita to his disciple Arjuna. And before Krishna, there was sage Vasistha living. And many monks were living at the time. Vasistha explained yoga beautifully to his disciple Rama. Rama learned everything from him. And before Vasistha, and at the time of Vasistha, again yogi, and before Vasistha, there were many yogis living, like Yajnavalkya living at that time. Yajnavalkya living. And in the golden age, you are seeing Veda as Veda. Veda. So many Vedic seers you are seeing at that time. Yajnavalkya explained in the name of Yajnavalkya Smriti. It is that Yajnavalkya is the first and foremost person who explained yoga in the name of Yajnavalkya Smriti. How we are getting this Hiranyagarbha is the originator to yoga from a very, very ancient text source from Vedic time, golden age, by the name called Yajnavalkya Smriti. The text name is Yajnavalkya Smriti. Historians, it is dates back to 6000 BC. Is the source of understanding the Hiranyagarbha as a what is sasanam? Sistasya sasanam anusasanam. Sistasya sasanam anusasanam. Sistasya means what? All the enlightened masters, what they made as authentic is authentic, undoubtedly. So what the enlightened masters followed and explained is that Patanjali also following. He was respecting all the masters, and what they explained, again he re-explained. It is not something new. What was already there, explaining in a new way, but all the yoga is very old. The yoga is very ancient. He was not changing the inner spirit of them. And by carrying forward their holy messages, scattered messages, and explained it beautifully by arranging them in proper order called sutra style. Bhagavad Gita is not a sutra. Yoga Vasistha is not a sutra. They are writing in the verses. Yajnavalkya Smriti also in the form of verses. But this is a sutra. He explained in a very simplified version in the sutra style. Who is he? Yogi Patanjali. What is the time period of Patanjali? Time period of Patanjali is 200 years before Christ. There was another explanation that there was a person called Vijaya, and he born with the blessings of Atri Rishi. He is also called as Atri, and he and his wife, his consort, Gonika, they got a beautiful son called Patanjali. Blessed son, supernatural kid, Patanjali. Patanjali studied from Katyayana, his guru, and also in the beginning he studied everything from his mother, Gonika. It was the historical reference of Patanjali. So this is all about the history of yoga. This sutra is talking about the history of yoga. Now Anusahasana. 15 branches of yoga are very, this commentary, this manual writing is there. I'm the new teacher for this Sri Hari Yoga Center. I appreciate the text and the book written by them. But my research work is that through which, if you listen my lectures and if you understand me, and through which the studying this book will be very easy. What I can do is, I'm a facilitator for you. A teacher should be like a facilitator. So when the manual is given to you means, the teachings of mine will facilitate you for your further study of this manual. If it is not that exact teaching of this manual what I am speaking, that speaking of me with this, when you start reading, not only this text, whatever any kind of text yoga, if you read, the teachings and the renderings of mine will open your mind and will connect you to that teachings. And through with this energy, with this foundation, so you can do experiments in reading, and you can, and also you can do experiments after that. First, you will get a very wonderful understanding of the yoga philosophy books what you are reading. I will connect you to the second sutra also now. Psychological past is different. For example, if you sit in the classroom and start thinking about, oh, what happened to my dog? I left my dog in the home and I came here for yoga classes. How was it eating? Are the neighbors giving good food to my dog? Is it living properly? What's happening to it? If you start thinking like that, and you are in the class present, but your mind is absent here, and it is somewhere else. And it is, that means you are thinking about what's happening there and all these things, and thinking about the dog and your beautiful movements with the dog, and also thinking about that, and also in future what I have to do to the dog. Our mind is always oscillating, going past and future, and it is all becoming the past. So psychologically, we should not be with the past. Psychologically, we should not be with the future. But chronologically, we have to be with balance. We have to be with past and future. If there is no memory, how we can remember these beautiful things? So we are memorizing these things. So first, in the beginning, we need a memory. Memory is also a behavioral pattern. With this, we are going beyond memory also. It happens later. So with balance, we have to do everything. Yoga means balance. So Patanjali is such a great yogi. With awareness, he was doing everything. Atha means a very powerful word which also connects you to that awareness. Atha means awareness. Atha means now. He was speaking about the power of now. So Patanjali addressing all the aspirants to be in the present. What Patanjali has done is, by making them in the present consciousness with awareness, he was taking his minds to past, and he was connecting the minds to future. What are the future actions the students have to do as they born as human beings? Next future is what, coming future is what there is plan. That was also. And but with awareness. With awareness, Patanjali teaching everything. Some sutras connecting you to past, some sutras connecting to the future also, in the Yoga Sutras, in the name of Vibhuti-pada, what's happening, next what. All these things. And with awareness, we are doing everything. So awareness of past, present and future is Atha. Atha Yoga Anusasanam. The awareness of past, present and future is Atha. Yoga Anusasanam. With that awareness, he was connecting you to that oneness. That what we have to understand from Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Okay. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.